And let's look at the footprint you have today. I mean, it's beyond even Los Angeles County, which is in and of itself a huge undertaking, one of the most densely and widely populated cities and counties in the world. But you've even gone beyond that. So let's talk about the current state or the current footprint of the Food Forward impact.
So we're currently in 12 Southern California counties, as well as six neighboring states and tribal lands now. So we have full operations here. And I always feel like we're still expanding as an organization, just because it just sort of emphasizes the food and security that we have in this world, let alone just the current coverage that we have. So we went from basically the backyard, one backyard, but now we're in 12 Southern California counties, as well as 6 neighboring states and tribal lands.
Rick, that has to be a humbling statistic to read when you think about those early days in 2009.
Yeah, there are a few stats that we've captured in the last year that kind of blew my mind. One was that the organization recovers and distributes enough produce to meet the nutritional needs from a USDA perspective of over 150,000 individuals every single day.
Wow.
So that was kind of crazy, because when we have like last month at the produce pit stop, which is our warehouse in South Los Angeles, we saw over 7.5 million pounds of fresh produce come through the doors and leave. The stuff usually is there for between 2 hours and 2 days maximum. And it's all plant-based. It's all produce. So again, coming from the produce mom's perspective, this is healthy stuff. You can't get any healthier. And on an average year, we see between 300 and 400 varieties of fresh produce go through the organization. So it's not just kind of carrots, potatoes, and onions that we're moving. This is some really exotic stuff that we get. We get rambutan from South Asia. We get prickly pear from Mexico. We get incredible heirloom apples from the Pacific Northwest. I mean, really stuff from all over the world, because LA is a gateway, and because we're kind of now at the top of the, if you use the term speed dial for donors who have these large loads that even food banks can't take, because we can handle 20 containers of Brussels sprouts, because we have small, medium, and large agencies, which we can divide those up to and then disseminate. Most food banks might take 1 or 2 truckloads of Brussels sprouts. We understand, they have to be kept on ice, they have to be dealt with this way, and we just have learned how to be culturally specific with where the food is sent, and just dial in those produce-only muscles. Our team, talk about being humbled. I will be down tomorrow at the produce pit stop, and our team is about 12 deep there, and most of them come with a decade plus of fresh produce industry experience, which is something I didn't have and Nkemdilim doesn't have. But these are, gentlemen and ladies who have worked in the industry, on the docks, in the refrigerators, in the fields, and they know what these products need to extend their lives and make sure they get to where they need to go. Another statistic, jumping back to the environmental footprint, is we hired an outside auditor to look at our entire carbon footprint in this last year. And what we found kind of blew my doors off. We found that we were not only net zero as far as carbon neutral, but we're actually 200 times net zero or carbon neutral in the produce that we're pulling out of the waste stream and moving into communities all over the region. What that means is that we are an incredible environmental asset to the food community and the environmental community, because food waste is in the top 5 of methane emissions, and so much of it is dumped into landfill unnecessarily. So that 250 million pounds that we are celebrating really does move the needle on both the health equity piece and on the environmental piece.
One thing, as you were talking there, Rick, one thing that I really connected with is something I say all the time. I say it on this show, I feel like every week, but food is culture. And when you talk about the not just the volume, but also the variety of fruits and vegetables that you are able to bring into the Food Forward network, that there is such a testament to the cultural side of food. You know, you're not just expecting every single person. And I think this comes back to your passion of food being a universal right, you know. And I do think that food is how we all celebrate our cultures, and there is culturally relevant food, which you just shared in your remarks. And I think that the fact that you have access there with the Los Angeles wholesale terminal market, and the gateway that Southern California is to all of the United States as it relates to our fruit and vegetable varieties, it just all comes together with this amazing, like, you know, so many you know, hunger relief efforts or food justice efforts. They can't really close the loop the way that you're able to because of that access to the volume and the variety.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And one thing we do like to point out is we do see the large food bank system as something we complement. We don't compete with it. We know that there is, again, so much waste happening, and that there's something about developing very specific muscles and staying within your lanes. There was a point during the pandemic when the USDA was offering boxes of produce for families, and we stepped in and we were a big part of that. And then that equation changed a bit, and they added dairy and they added proteins, animal proteins. And we took a pause, and we were about to pull out of it because it wasn't an area that we were expertise in, and it required a whole different set of logistics for the food chain. And we said, you know what, this is an extraordinary moment in human civilization. This is a moment of need. This is a moment of triage. And so we kind of put aside our mission for a few months, and we took part in those USDA boxes that included animal proteins and dairy. It was a very brief few months, but we've returned and we are staying exclusively with produce. Our board of directors, our staff really see that niche as something very unique to Food Forward.